Well, I think the people on the ground are fantastic. The technicians that are there are my heroes. They're doing everything they possibly can, and let's give them every support we can. But as people have said, we're reaching the point now in your introduction that people cannot approach the reactors anymore because the levels are too high. And I just fear that there are too many problems at once here. They're just going to be pushed back and pushed back. So TEPCO has a tiger by the tail, and I'm not sure what they can do with it.
And what, in your view, are the most pressing problems at this time?
Well, you've got the 3 reactor cores and the 6 fuel ponds. I kind of think one of the fuel ponds may actually turn out to be the problem if it manages to go critical, because if it does, then people are going to have to back away from the facilities. I think any one of the 9 places that we're worried about here, the fuel ponds or the reactors, if any one of them becomes so dangerous and has a breach that people can no longer go onto the site, then we're just going to see the other 8 go one after another, and then they'll helplessly have to watch it. So that any one of them, it could cause it to go.
And the big problem at the moment is, as you say, the workers can't get close to the plant. They can't get close enough to get water in. There were attempts to use helicopters earlier in the day, but that's now been scrapped. That's the main issue at the moment, isn't it?
That's the main issue. I mean, everything's about water. You have to get water into the core, and you have to get water in those pools. The pools should be relatively easy, except they're up on the top of the building. They're several floors up, and if you can't get a hose up there and a lot of water in, you may have a bigger problem there. Up until now, it's been trying to push water into the cores, which is like trying to push water down into the Old Faithful geyser. You're working against all that steam and all that pressure coming out, and it's just really hard to do. So it's all about water.
Now, the United States is telling its citizens not to go within 50 miles of the plant. That's much further than the 12-mile evacuation zone imposed by the Japanese government. Do you think the Japanese government's underestimating the risk of radioactive contamination?
Well, I see that differently. I think if you're in the zone, you want to get out or shelter indoors, as they say. But if they're telling people not to approach it, that's just, let's not get more people in harm's way. And don't go toward the problem, go away, or just don't go at all. So it doesn't sound to me like that's necessarily a contradiction.
Now, it seems a lot is dependent on the way the wind is blowing at the moment. That seems to be putting us in a very vulnerable situation.
Well, as long as it'll blow out to sea, that's very, very good news. It really isn't going to affect people for a long time, and may have some effect on the marine environment, not very much. I'm hard-pressed to believe that if it blows toward Tokyo that there'd be any really significant health problems, even if it's a very measurable event. That's very far away, and I just wouldn't expect that to be a major problem.
All right, and finally, do you think this accident could deal a fatal blow to the nuclear industry?
I'm very concerned about that because I'm a nuclear engineer. I believe in nuclear power, but I must admit my confidence is shaken. I think we've let the public down, and we're going to have to earn their respect and their trust again, and that's going to take, I think, a few years. Certainly, dependence on a large percentage of nuclear power is now seen to be a problem. I don't really see that in France because France doesn't have the environmental problems or the earthquake problems and things, but it does show that having all your eggs in one basket is a problem.